Alright, so this video is it's about loans, and we're going to just talk about loans in general today. We'll get more into specifically home loans and some ins and outs of things we can do differently in class on Saturday. But what we're going to talk about today is just specifically when we take out a loan, what are some things we need to know about. So for instance, the idea of a down payment. So for those of you who never bought anything on credit before, and that's fine. Nobody expects that you've done that in this class so far. But I think it's interesting that a lot of people don't or have never purchased anything when they take this class. Other people have purchased many different things, cars and homes and whatnot. And we're all at different points in that game. So it's just, this is money that you pay up front. It's not borrowed money. Okay, so when we go to buy a house or a car or whatever, there's a sale price. You know, whatever you agreed to purchase the price for, purchase price, whatever you want to call it. It's whatever you agreed to buy the home or the car or whatever for. Okay, when you're going to subtract from that amount the down payment, and whatever's left over is what you're going to need to borrow. Okay, and so that's just how it works. Whenever you buy a car or a house or anything, you have to buy on a loan. Okay, so as always, the 5 players must be present. Present value. This is how much you borrow. That is always the present value. The rate, which of course is just the interest. Of course, that will be important. The time. Okay, so all of the loans that we deal with will be monthly payments, monthly compounding. So it'll be the number of years times 12 every single time. So 360 will come up a lot, you know, 60, 72, 180 months. These are the ones that come up frequently because 5, 6, 10-year loans, not uncommon. 15 years, 180, 360 for 30 years. These are all pretty common time frames. The payment, which obviously is something we're going to have to worry about for this deal because, you know, when we did savings accounts, we need to know how much we need to put away to get to a certain amount. Well, we have a goal in mind here. Our goal is 0 future value. Okay, on 99% of the time it is. And so we're going to spend a great deal of time finding payment. Okay, after we find it, we're going to talk about, well, how much money does this house cost me total? And then we're going to talk also a little bit about, you know, if I can afford this much payment, how much house can I afford to buy? And that will be a present value calculation. We'll never, ever really solve for future value. You could theoretically do that if you want to know how much you owed after 10 years, but after I set up their spreadsheet for us and we start looking at what I want to do with it, you can read it off the spreadsheet faster and easier than you can possibly do it with the calculations. So what we're going to talk about today is this. So suppose we buy a house for $200,000 and we put, I don't know, let's say 10% down. You finance, that just means borrow the rest at 4.6%. If I don't say otherwise, you just assume monthly for 30 years. Okay, also referred to as a 30-year mortgage. In this class, we're only going to talk about what are called fixed rate mortgages. That is, it's the same rate the entire time. Well, if you think about this for a minute, the only thing I didn't tell you is I didn't tell you the payment. So question number 1 will be, what is the payment? Question number 2, how much did the house cost total? Okay. 3 might be how much interest. These are big deals that we see frequently in all of these problems. How much interest total did you pay? And sometimes this one, how much interest in a given year. for tax purposes. You know, you can deduct your taxes. The mortgage interest rate, the mortgage interest that you paid off of your taxes. So what I'm going to do is come over into Excel and blow it up so we can all see it. And up here, I'm just going to throw in my initial value. Now, if you think about it, how much did we put down? Well, we put 10% down. Well, 10% of 20,000, or 10% of 200,000 is 20,000 down, which means we're going to be borrowing 180. Okay, so we already gave the guy 20 grand. We need to borrow the other $180,000. Boom. And over here somewhere, it's not particularly important where, we're going to put in the interest rate. So 0.046, I think I said. Is that what I said? Yes, good for me. And I'm going to name it interest before I forget. Don't forget to hit enter. And so, you know, what I'm missing here is I'm missing the darn payment. So we're going to use the formulas, financial, payment. There it is. So the rate is that guy divided by 12. The number of periods is 360 because it was a 30-year loan. The value is negative A1. Everything else you can leave blank. And we'd have to pay $922.76 a month for the payment. Now, how much did the house cost me total? Well, I don't know, but I had to pay 360 of these payments, right? Plus, it cost me 20 grand out of pocket. That's the total cost. So I can do that without doing anything else. So the house cost me $352,193. $352,193. Yeah, that's the total cost of the home. Now, how much interest did I pay? Well, everything that's interest is above and beyond the cost of the home. The cost is $200,000, so the rest of it must be interest. Okay? And then the next question is simply how much do we pay in the first year? Now, there's a good way to do that, so don't forget to name your payment. And voila. And so over here, I'm simply going to go equals the original value times parentheses 1 plus interest divided by 12 minus the payment. And I'm simply going to drag this baby down to 361 because that's 360 months. Voila. And so what I've got there is I've got the whole shebang, a running total of how much I owe every month. Okay? Now, I'm going to add another column here. So, in the first month, how much did it went toward paying off the balance, as we call it, went to principal? Okay, because that payment that we found is what's often referred to as the P and I payment. That is principal and interest. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take, well, I owed 180, and now I owe this much. So, voila, $232 went to the bank for interest, or for the principal. The other $700-ish must have gone towards interest. So anyway, everything else that we pay, if it didn't go to principal, it went to interest. So it's the payment minus that guy. Because remember, you wrote a check for $922. If $232 went to principal, the rest of it must have gone to interest. If you double click right here in the corner, it'll paste it down. And what this is called, it's called an amortization table. I will write that down. Amortization. For crying out loud. Amortization. Nice. So we call that, you amortize the loan over 30 years. In other words, you take and pay it off over the course of 30 years. And this thing will tell you how much I owe every month. That's what this first column is, a running total, how much you owe. The principal, this is how much is going to principal every month, and now here's the interest we pay in each month. Notice that the interest goes down, the principal amount goes up. Notice how long it takes to cross over to where it's about 50-50. It is somewhere in the 181st month, well, about 180 months into this thing, about 15 years in before you start paying half of your payment toward the principal. Okay? It's a long time. The sooner we can get that baby paying over 50% toward principal, the more money we'll save. So that is something that we will do in class quite a bit on Saturday, is we will talk about, how can we speed this process up? We can pay extra every month, and we can do some different things like that. Okay? But again, I prefer, when you want to tell me how much the total amount was, I prefer to do 360 times the payment plus the down payment. That to me is the way to go. But if you're weird, and some people really like this, and it never fails to amaze me. People love this other method I show, and I don't care if you use it. It just cracks me up because I don't think it's that exciting, or some people are like, that makes so much more sense. So place your cursor right underneath the principal column. If you go to auto sum, oh my gosh, the total amount I paid back for principal is, what? It's exactly what I borrowed. I know, how about that? And then if you do auto sum again, and you add up the interest, son of a gun, it's the total interest. And together, you see, this plus the down payment is how much you paid for the house. Okay? And so it can be done a number of ways. I don't care which way you do it. Just, whatever works for you. Don't screw it up. Now, let's say, for the sake of argument, that you bought this home 1st of January. So this is the very first of the month. So this is for the first year. So that's the very first of the January. It's the end of January. And so on and so on and so on. If you want to know how much taxes you paid in the first year, what you would do is you'd go equals sum of these right there. You notice by my cursor right there, do you see where it says 12R right there? Right there, do you see it? Just to the upper right hand of it. I'm adding the first 12 numbers together. And that first year I paid $8,220 in interest. That comes off of my taxes. I get to write that off on my taxes. If I come down another 12 months, which is right here, and I could do this all the way through. And of course you're like, well, what if I didn't buy it in January? Then obviously you go from January to January. So if this was a January, you'd go down 12 months and do it again. Obviously it has to be on a calendar year sort of a situation. So just be aware of that. That is how you find the amount of interest you pay. Now your bank keeps track of that for you. You will get a statement from your bank at the end of the year. That statement will have on it how much interest you paid, and then you put that on your taxes and all that. And it's not that hard to do. Okay? Let's see here. Let's do another one. So, well, for the first year, it's $8,220. Yeah, cool. All right, so let's do another one here. Let's buy a car. Let's do it 6 years. It's 5% interest. I don't know. I just made that up. If the car was 40 grand, let's see, between down payment and between your down payment and your trade-in and whatnot. Let's see. So you got the car down to 40 grand. That's how much it costs, and you put 10,000 down. I'm trying to say it a couple different ways. So you put 10,000 down, meaning that you're borrowing 30 grand. Okay, if I said this once, I said it 100 times. You will not forget dropping $10,000 on this down payment, or $40,000 for a house down payment or whatever. You'll never forget it in real life. In class, you'll forget about it. You're like, I got the answer. Ooh, you forgot the down payment. I don't know how you forgot a down payment of $25,000. I can never write a check for 25 grand and pretend like it didn't happen. But people do it all the time. It cracks me up. So here it is. We're going to borrow $30,000. So obviously, things we want to know first. What is the payment? Number 2, total cost. These are pretty much the things that always go off in my mind, whether anybody's asked me a question or not. Payment, total cost, total interest, all that good stuff. All right, so let's go look at it. So 30 grand. Again, click up here, click over here, click on the dollar sign, boom. Now, for whatever reason, kind of E over there is my go-to cell for interest, but you can put it wherever you want. I usually leave a few blank spots because I like to have B and C columns free. It looks dumb to have it right next to it in D. I don't know why that is. I don't know why I'm weird like that. I just know that I am. But you can stick it, again, literally anywhere you want. It's not important. So, the interest rate is this guy divided by 12, because it's monthly interest. This is I forgot, 6 years? What did I say, 6 years? 6 years, so 72 months. Present value is negative A1, and Y, oops, where'd my Excel go? Oh no. 483.15 is my payment. So the total cost is 72 times 83.15 plus 10 grand, which we will do on the previous page over here somewhere. So the car cost me $44,786. $44,786. So total interest then is $4,786. Okay, car cost me 40 grand. Then obviously anything over 40 grand must be interest. Okay. Notice how I didn't fill in the whole amortization table. Again, not hard to do if I want to, so I'm going to go ahead and do it because on the next problem or 3 or 4, I'm going to be doing that. So just pay attention to it. So not very hard. Equals the previous amount times 1 plus the interest divided by 12 minus the payment. Bam. That's our formula every single time. And we're dragging her down to 73 this time because it's a 72-month loan. Boom. Bam. It's magical. Now, I don't need to fill in this the rest of this. I'm going to go ahead and do it just for practice. Good grief, I can't spell. Interest. Bam. And so I paid the first month. You can see I paid $360 basically. But I paid out of pocket $483. So the rest of it, obviously, went to interest. Geez, it's not much interest. Well, no, because A, you didn't borrow much money compared to the house, and B, you didn't borrow it for very long. So, again, that's just the difference between a house loan and a car loan. Okay? All right, one more time. One more time. But let's shake it up this time. Let's do it this way instead. Let's say that we know you can get a 4% 30-year loan. Okay, and we know that you can afford to pay $1,100 a month. That's something that's, in your mind. You know that I can do that. $1,100 a month. Awesome, cool. Okay, and let's say you have $20,000 down payment. That's what you saved. You have it saved up. You're ready to use it for a down payment. You know what I don't know is I don't know how much I can afford to borrow. So in other words, that's my rate, that's my time, that's my payment, that's down payment. Future value is 0 as always. What I don't know is the present value. I don't know how much I can afford to borrow. And if I don't know how much I can afford to borrow, then I don't know how much I can afford to buy. Okay? So I'm going to go to present value. Boom. And the rate, I'm just going to hard code it this time, okay? It's not important because I'm not going to use this particular example right now for anything other than just a demo of how to use the spreadsheet, okay? Oh, fiddle fart. Try again. And the idea is that, obviously if I have a cell labeled as interest, I could totally do that. But I only want to use it one time, so because of that, I can just hard code it in and be okay with that. $1,100, notice, negative $1,100. Now, pay attention to that number right there. Do you see how it's positive? Watch what happens when I don't use a negative. Oh my gosh, same number, it's just negative. So just be aware of that, not a big deal. This is how much I can borrow. How much I can borrow. Wait a minute. Well, I've got 200 or 20,000 rather, for a down payment. So, how much house can I buy? Well, I can buy the sum. That plus. This is how much I can afford. How much I can afford to buy. In other words, that is the final price. But yeah, I found this house. It's $270,000. I can talk the guy down like 20 grand before I start because it's a buyer's market. That's key. As long as they agree that that's the price that they're going to sell it for you to you at, then you are golden, friend. If that's the sale price, this or lower, then you put 20 grand down, you borrow that much, your payment will be at most $1,100 a month. If the house was only let's say 200,000, then you'd only be borrowing 180. Well, then you wouldn't even need to have a full payment of $1,100. For instance, watch this. So you know this is your max amount. True story, when we were looking to buy our first house, we'd go to that and look at houses all the time, and I'd be like, hey, that's a great house. I really like the shop. She likes the kitchen or the bedrooms or the what. It's always something. But then when you look at the price, you're like, we can't afford this. This is no bueno. And then I finally said, I can probably do this. So I sat down with my calculator. I figured out how much we could afford maximum to pay. Well, we know how much we could afford per month to pay. So we figured out how much maximum price the house is set at, and we didn't look for anything above that. So I personally am a big fan of Zillow.com. Some people really like Redfin. Some people really like, what's the other one? Realtor.com. I couldn't care less, to be honest with you. I don't work for any of them. Whatever. But we will be using this in class a little bit. So what I do is I just type in, I'm going to type in where I used to kind of live, sort of Walla Walla, Washington. And here are a bunch of houses that it throws out. You're like, oh, that's cool. But what I can do is click on a filter here. Now, in real life, of course, I would obviously type in the number of bedrooms I'm looking for too. But it's not that big a deal to me right now. All right? I'm just more interested in that top end. Okay? And I don't want... Yeah, look at this place. What do we got here? Oh, look at this. It's a tiny house. I don't like that. Let's go somewhere. Let's get a little bigger house. See if we can find somewhere cool. It's just a piece of land. 33 acres, though. That's nice. That's nice. Let's see if we can find a house that actually is a house. Oh, for God's sakes. There we go. That's... This one. By George, this one. Yay! Okay, great. Cool. 1.3 acres. Lovely. Whatever. Now look at that. $225,000. If we agree on that price, and I buy it for that price, think about this for a minute. How much am I actually going to be borrowing? Okay? Well, if the sales price is $225 and I borrow 20, I'm borrowing then, I put 20 down, I'm actually only going to be borrowing, you see, $205. So let's try this one. So if the sale price, and I'll just write it over here somewhere down here out of the way, sale price $225, and I put the down of 20. Okay, if I subtract those, then I will find that I'm going to be borrowing $205. Oops. There it is. And so now what I can do is go in there and finish filling this out, and again I'll it's 4%. So I'm going to go ahead and just go in here and monkey with this a little bit. The main thing I want to show you is something kind of cool here. I don't know, I spelled interest wrong and I don't care. And over here I'm going to say equals PMT. So the rate is this fella divided by 12. It was a 360 month loan. Present value is negative A1. Bam. Look at that. I only have to pay $978 a month. Can I afford that? I literally can, because I knew I could afford $1,100 going in. So on that other page where we wrote it down, we said, where did I write it down? That was over here. We said that this was the maximum I can afford to buy. So because 225 is less than 250, I'm guaranteed that I can afford it, obviously. And so I'm only borrowing 205 instead of 230. So because I'm not borrowing 230, my payment's going to be substantially less. So instead of being 1100, it's 980 or whatever we said it was. Okay? Now, I would like to show you one more thing about Zillow. We will be using this in the future. If you come down here where it says price and tax history, it literally lists the property taxes, usually. Of course, I picked one that doesn't. But you can also go on the county's website. So Walla Walla County has a website. And I don't know how to run theirs, and I'm not a big fan of, I just don't know. So I do know that Washington County and Columbia County, Oregon websites pretty well. So let me show you. So go to the assessor page, assessment and taxation, okay? And tax statements, property tax statements. They changed it around on me just a skosh. Here it is. And you could type in your house number and your street number and so forth in here, and you can get a value out for it. I'm going to type in the Columbia County one because that way, okay, I know I can come up with one that works. Come on. I love my little pad here, but it's hard to type on. Alrighty then. So, come down here. Oh, here it is. Assessment and tax info online. Yes, I have agreed to it. Yes, I care. This one here, situs address. Okay. Then you can type in your city. And so maybe I do Scappoose, and then I do street name, let's say Meadow Drive. I'll leave it alone. If you do street, you can do street type. Sometimes the more you give it, the harder it actually is to get to come out. And then you can search. Wait, I'm gonna do my. Oh, god dang it! I typed in the stupid address wrong. One moment, please. Alright, let's try it again. And for God's sakes. I bet it's because I have a blank in there. It did. God dang it. I had Meadow with an extra space on the end. Some of these things are a little finicky. And if you click on that, the information link will pop up and it should tell you, there it is, who owns the place. And this is how much the house was assessed at last year, or it was assessed at. And then property tax statement right here, tax statement. It'll come up. And Washington County is exactly the same, so not a big deal. This is how much they pay in taxes this year, $3,300. By the way, that's all public information. Everybody's house is public information the exact same way. So don't fret about it. So again, I could have chosen a different house out here, and I'm going to just do one. See, it could be that this county doesn't participate in this in Zillow, which that'll irritate me slightly that I didn't look at that ahead of time. Of course it's going to do that to me. Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? I don't understand, you stupid computer. Alright, so I'm just going to click on a random house here because we totally could have afforded this one too. That's a nice little place there, yeah. Give it to me. Come on, open up. Here, what? There, that house. Let's do that one. Alright. All I want to show you is how this Zillow thing works. The Redfin and the other ones also work the exact same way. Had a lady in class last term. Oh my word. She was freaking out on me. I only use Realtor. And I'm like, I don't care, lady. I don't work for either one of them. I just happen to like the way this one's laid out a little better. But there it is. There's the property taxes for last year. And you can see how they work. Okay. Again, Realtor.com. Oops, you spelled it wrong, you moron. Yeah, so here are some I guess I've clicked on in the past, perhaps. Oops. But down in here, it'll talk to you about. There There's the property taxes right there. This one isn't too bad, I guess. I guess I'm already into it. I think I don't like about it as well up here is I don't like the I think when you click on some of the filters on this one is the one I think I don't like as well. Yeah, well, this one's not horrible, I guess. I think it's the Redfin I don't care for as well. This one's not too bad. And then the other one is Redfin, as I say. And it's, again, it's similar, just different. We will be using this for our project, by the way, so you will get fairly comfortable with this by the time we're done. Come on, give it to me. Let's go, let's go, let's go. All right. So here's the houses. Yeah, this is what I don't like the filter on this one as well. Oh, it's up here. It's there. It's just weirder than it. I think it's just weirder. It's harder to get used to it, I think. And then if you scroll down, it should be the one. It should tell you the information down here somewhere as well. Maybe if you roll down here far enough. No, maybe I went too far. Maybe this is it. Oh, here we go. Property history. Maybe it's this one. Oh, public facts. I bet it's public facts. Yeah, here's the taxes for 2015. Okay, so it's just a little trickier to find some of that stuff, but be aware of that. If you had to pay, I think that one house we talked about, that I did the math for on this, I think that the property taxes was it? No, we didn't have a number for this one, but let's just say it was $22.50 for the whole year. Okay, well, keep in mind that is an extra $887 a month you need to come up with taxes. So if that were true, you would have to know, you'd have to know if you can afford this house. That's how much has to go to pay the bank plus the property tax. You would, in other words, you have to be able to come up with $1,166. Now you have to ask yourself, well, I could afford $1,100 for the house. Yeah, but were you budgeting for the taxes? And so we're going to talk some more about this on Saturday and get into that a little bit more in detail. Because this house that we bought for $225,000 seemed like quite the steal because we can get way less than $1,100 a month in payments. That's true to the bank. However, the county wants its share as well. It wants an extra $187.50. Either the bank or the county could take your house away for failure to pay. Either one of them, and you're just as out on your butt without a house if you don't pay them. So just be aware of this. It looks like we're about $66 a month over budget. Now, if you can lay off a few lattes, you can probably swing that. If not, you're going to want to go find a little bit cheaper of a house.